Council meeting to order. Right now, we're getting the rest of the council members on the conference call, so please bear with us. While we're doing that, I might just mention that we're wearing our masks tonight. We're going to try this. Hopefully, everyone can hear us. If it's sounding too garbled, we want to make sure that folks can hear our speech. So we're going to start off with masks.
Welcome to the GCI Conference Center. Please enter your access code followed. Thank you. Please stand by. If you are the chairperson, press the star key now. Please enter your chairperson passcode. You will now be placed into conference. There are 6 participants in the conference.
Wait, 6?
Okay, next on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you take the roll, please?
Tonight's roll call. McClure,
Here.
Osenga,
Here.
Cease,
Here.
Baclan,
Present.
Butts,
Here.
Kreitz,
Here.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is item number 4, citizen comments on any subject except those items scheduled for public hearing. Madam Clerk, I believe you've collected citizen comments ahead of time. Would you read those into the record, please?
I will, happily. I have quite a few to read. The first citizen comment is from Patricia Perry. I would like to endorse, I'm sorry, let me start over again to do the time.
Thank you.
Patricia Perry, I would like to endorse 2 items coming up at the next City Council meeting. Proclamation recognizing the 50th anniversary of Earth Day and a resolution of the city's support for the establishment of Kenai Peninsula Borough Resilience and Security Commission, formerly known as Sustainable Resources Commission, for consideration of the City Council. I appreciate the council member's support of these 2 items. Next is from Linda Paquette. First, thank you to all for your diligent response to the COVID-19 crisis and for doing what you can to keep our community safe. I would like to encourage council to move forward with the attorney interviews. This is something that was pressing and then had to be postponed because of the virus. If you wait until you can have them here in person, who knows when that would be? And in the meantime, anything that happens, you are stuck using the existing firm that many folks are unhappy with. Could you please use Zoom to hold the interviews? The feedback that I hear from citizens is that they want this handled sooner rather than later. One drawback to continuing postponing is that summer, the weather anyway, is coming, and if all of a sudden things return to even a slight semblance of normal, people will be too busy to give this important topic the attention it needs. Things are quiet in April because of restrictions, and hopefully the law firms should have flexibility to schedule Zoom interviews before the end of the month. Please consider doing this and getting it taken care of soon. Next is from Rosa Salazar. I cannot imagine what others are going through at this moment, but I can let you know there are a lot of folks struggling. How awesome it has been to see the community come together and work on taking care of our Seward community. I have a request. I feel so disconnected from our leaders. I watch as around the globe, mayors and city managers are checking in with residents 1 to 2 times a week by hosting virtual forums and town halls. I feel it's time to do this for Seward. I find all of my information out from Dunleavy and Berkowitz, but have heard nothing from the city except a few letters dated March 13th and 14th, and at city meetings. By now, many of us cannot afford our bills. Is the city understanding of this? What's the plan as some of us rack up an electricity bill? We were denied food stamps. Unemployment is taking a long time. We have wiped out our savings. We are not the only ones. What's the plan if this pandemic gets worse? Folks are still renting out their cabins and people are traveling to Seward to stay. That is scary. People are still not wearing masks. It's been mandated by the state. What is the city's pandemic emergency response plan? Who has been appointed as the chief emergency of operations? We have a chance to really protect Seward. Have discussions been had about closing the entrance to the city? I'm a data person and this pandemic is not going anywhere for a while. It would be nice to know. Facebook is a necessity. Being on the radio is a necessity. Please consider following the footsteps of what other mayors and managers are doing. We need to hear from you more often, please. Next signed in came from CJ Ray. I write the council in support of the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. One can hardly be from Seward and not celebrate the wonders of the land around us. A majority of our livelihoods depend on it, for sure, but our personal lives are also thoroughly enriched by it. Let's be sure to pass this proclamation. While we're at it, let's realize that we influence this land we get so many benefits from. I write also in support of the resolution to support the establishment of the Kenai Peninsula Borough Resilience and Security Commission. The RSC can help us celebrate future Earth Days with the knowledge that we are doing all we can to positively influence the incredible ecosystem that sustains us and that we call home. Why not be on the front line of reducing the waste in our landfills by encouraging strategies that make our lives less wasteful and sharing ways to reuse and recycle what we do need? Why not be the tiny town that roared when faced with the challenge of cutting CO2 emissions? We have natural resources right here in Seward that we can use to generate power. Maybe this borough-wide commission can help us get the study we need done to look at the feasibility of generating power from Lowell Creek and the waterfall. Why not be the town that shows our neighbors and visitors from far away that not only have a beautiful town to visit, but that we respect this incredible gift of beauty and we nurture it by supporting initiatives like the community gardens, recycling programs, and plastic reduction? Why not be the town that sees the reason we have the fish stocks we do is from management that has kept populations in good health? Now we must lead through management that helps us to keep the streams cool enough for healthy stocks to continue. And finally, why not be a town that recognizes our participation in cutting emissions will be required if we don't expect last year's catastrophic Swan Lake fires to wreak havoc on the forests of Seward in the near future. We need to support this resolution and get to work. Let's ensure that Earth Day 2070 finds our subsistence and scenic resources in even better shape than they are today by passing this resolution to support the establishment of Kenai Peninsula Borough Resilience and Security Commission. Next is from Lori Landstrom. Hello, Mayor Terry, members of City Council and staff. I'm going to skip. First, I would like to thank, I just skipped her intro. First, I would like to thank Councilmember Backlund for sponsoring the Earth Day proclamation. This is the 50th anniversary for Earth Day. I still remember my first Earth Day rally in the late 70s. Earth Day can be many things to many people. A celebration of stewardship for the earth and environment. It can also be a reminder that we all can make a difference for our planet and community. Small actions do matter. Each of us reducing the amount of single-use plastics we use, reusing items that when we can, recycling or picking up trash. Sustainable Seward had great plans for Earth Day 2020. Working with local artist Sarah Glazer and the Seward Elementary School staff, we were going to roll out a recycling coloring activity book, a field trip to the local transfer site, and other activities at the school. Of course, all of this has been postponed. However, Sustainable Seward will be publishing several pages from this booklet via our Facebook and Instagram pages during Earth Week, April 20th to 24th, so please watch for those. The theme for Earth Day 2020 is climate action. I encourage everyone involved to continue this effort. Oh. Sorry, I lost my place. On this point, I would like to thank the City Council for tasking PACCAB with writing the Seward Climate Action Plan. I encourage everyone involved to continue this effort. There are good examples of other local climate action plans out there, and the time is now for Seward to continue onward with this effort. Please continue to support PACCAB in this endeavor. Moving on, I would also like to thank Councilmember Baclan for sponsoring Resolution 20-031, a resolution supporting the establishment of Kenai Peninsula Borough Resilience and Security Commission. The concept of this borough-wide commission was written into the 2019 KPB Comprehensive Plan, which the Seward City Council supported. Let's complete the process and bring the commission into existence. The new commission would bring together experts to help the borough and local communities plan for our future. It would be a body focused on comprehensive long-range resource planning. It is needed to protect our private property and public lands, to promote self-sufficiency and protect our business and investments, and to safeguard the welfare of our families and our subsistence lifestyles. It will serve as a bridge between our communities, administrators, and experts. This commission will improve the borough's ability to listen to stakeholders and to develop effective policies to protect our interests and those of future generations. Many effects of climate changes are seen across the Kenai Peninsula, including but not limited to drought conditions which worsened the 2019 Swan Lake fire, rising water temperatures in non-glacial streams which threaten future salmon stocks, rising acidification in our oceans adversely affecting fish and wildlife, which affect our food chain and tourism businesses. Disrupted supply chains, advice and planning ideas brought forth from this commission could help us all in the future. Next signed in is Callie Bacon. The intent of State Healthcare Mandate 12 is to keep Alaskans from moving between communities. My impression is that the residents of Seward are taking this mandate seriously. However, I am concerned by the disregard for this mandate I'm observing among some second home owners in Seward. I'm personally aware of several Anchorage residents with second homes in Seward who continue to move freely back and forth between their residences, despite the ban on non-essential travel, and who I know to be utilizing local services while they are in Seward. The FAQs provided on the state coronavirus website clearly state that this behavior is not allowed under the mandate. I asked City Council to urge our mayor and city administration to take action to stop this ongoing intrastate travel. This may be done through increased community outreach, contact with the mayor of Anchorage, and by communicating to state officials that additional public education on this mandate is needed. If you have not had a chance to review Seldovia Police Chief's recent letter to his community, I would encourage you to read it for reference on how others in our area are addressing similar issues. Every year in mid-April, our community begins to see an influx of seasonal employees. With the timeline for the start of this year's tourist season uncertain, many residents are asking why non-resident seasonal employees are still beginning to appear in Seward. Businesses with seasonal employees need to be able to plan ahead, and it is hard to blame them for being optimistic that these employees will soon be needed. However, for the health of our community, it is best that non-residents wait to come to Seward until there are jobs for them to do. Since State Health Mandate 10 essentially halts all out-of-state tourism, our local businesses need to know how long Health Mandate 10 will remain in effect. This information will help businesses more accurately plan for when they will have work for their employees so that they can delay the arrival of non-resident employees accordingly. I asked City Council to urge our mayor and city administration to reach out to the governor's office to let them know that Seward needs an update on how long Health Mandate 10 will remain in effect. We understand that it will almost certainly be extended beyond April 21st. If the governor waits to extend Health Mandate 10 until its current slated expiration date of April 21st, many more seasonal employees will have made their way to Seward. Employees for whom employment is uncertain and who bring with them the real risk of transporting COVID-19 into our small community. Next is our comments from Tamara Filipovich. She actually sent 2 emails in on 2 different topics, so I'm not sure I'll get through them both, but I'll try. This is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, which serves as an annual reminder we can all be stewards and advocates for our planetary ecosystem and home. Small actions do matter. Each of us reusing, reducing, refusing, recycling, and composting contributes to a better community for all beings in and around Seward. As a community, Seward is making strides towards sustainability, passing the plastic bag ban and styrofoam ordinance, providing reusable grocery bags to members of the community free of charge, encouraging proper recycling, and providing recycling containers in city buildings and campgrounds. These are all examples of how we can support our community's sustainability through daily actions. The 2020 Earth Day theme is climate action. Seward is currently working on writing our climate action plan. I encourage the members of PACAB to continue that effort. In closing, I would like to see that my neighbors, friends, fellow citizens, 2-legged, 4-legged, and many others enjoying and thriving in our beautiful and sustaining community is a daily source of inspiration for me. I am grateful to our City Council for all they have done and will continue to do to help our community ensure this beautiful and inspiring way of life continues for many generations to come. Secondly, as we all should be aware by now, the Kenai Peninsula has experienced multiple changes related to climate change over the years, including most recently the drought conditions which worsened the 2019 Swan Lake fire, rising water temperatures in non-glacial streams that threatened future salmon stocks, rising acidification in our oceans that have adversely affected fish and wildlife, which also affect our food chain and tourism businesses. I support Resolution 20-031 because the establishment of this commission will help our city and community address the aforementioned issues in the following ways. Seward City Council supported the 2019 KBB Comprehensive Plan that called for the establishment of a commission on sustainability. The ordinance to establish the Resilience and Security Commission completes that process, which will bring together experts to help the borough and local communities plan for a healthy, safe, stable, and thriving future. This commission will focus on comprehensive long-range resource planning that is needed to protect our private property and public lands, to promote self-sufficiency and protect our business investments, and to safeguard the welfare of our families and our subsistence lifestyles. This commission will help coordinate efforts between our communities, administrators, and experts, and as such improve the borough's ability to listen to stakeholders and to develop effective policies to protect our interests and those of future generations. Next is from Brennan Hornseth. My name is Brennan Hornseth, and I live out inside city limits. This month we celebrate Earth Day, and it is a good reminder as we are sequestered away in our homes during this pandemic to reflect on the awesome outdoors we have available to us, especially here in Seward. But just as we all enjoy the outdoors, even if it's just the sights and sounds from the comforts of our home, we should do our part to take care of it. To that end, I support Earth Day proclamation being brought forward to City Council, and even more importantly, I also support Seward joining the up-and-coming borough-wide Resilience and Security Commission. Seward has made awesome progress towards being better stewards of our bay and surrounding area in recycling, plastic bag use, and electricity use, but at some point it becomes hard to feel like we are part of the bigger picture. Joining the Resilience and Security Commission can help us tackle bigger challenges and help encourage us to finish our climate action plan so that we can be prepared for the impacts of climate change ahead. I support the resolution to establish KPB Resilience and Security Commission. More than halfway done. Next is from Sherry Furlong. A few short questions after reading the agenda. Dumpsters, is it possible to encourage someone in the state to produce these? Electric auto charging station. Will you consider putting it next to the chamber office so that folks can access the office while the auto charges? Would having a wayside rest area next to this on city land serve visitors by having a small shelter with one picnic table, restrooms, and trash receptacles? Might this service do more than marketing advertising? Will you consider designating one area downtown as a walking area only, 1 day per week, accepting the shuttle, tour bus, and downtown residents? If this trial is an economic boom, should the city build a multi-story parking garage on the lot across from Harbor 360, umbrellas and raincoats for rainy days? And on the agenda, will you consider shortening it by using links for such parts as blueprints? Next, from Jenny Nakau. Resolution 20-031, supporting the establishment of Kenai Peninsula Borough Resilience and Security Commission. Seward City Council supported the 2019 KPB Comprehensive Plan, which called for the establishment of a Commission on Sustainability. The ordinance to establish the Resilience and Security Commission completes the process, bringing together experts to help the borough and local communities plan for the future. I love Seward. The natural surroundings are truly incredible, and our community is inspiring. I think the best part of living in a small community like ours is that people want to support each other. When the individual rises up to make a small change, like using reusable bags, taking active transportation, or modifying a home to be more efficient, it catches on and inspires others to do the same. When our city leaders show initiative like helping to pay for recycling containers, banning single-use plastic bags, and helping us to explore heat pumps and solar energy solutions, it sends a message to all of us that it is time for us to take action for both humans and nature. So thank you to Tony Baclan and everyone else for your work with this recent resolution and the years leading up to it. Next is from Jovante Usagan Weddington. Sorry, Jovante. I want to express my support along with Sustainable Seward and the Earth Day Proclamation and Resolution 20-031, which establishes the KPB Resilience and Security Commission. Growing up in Seward has definitely been a unique experience as I come to understand the outside world more. We have special opportunities to embrace the many beauties of the natural world in such a small community, with easy access to the National Forest, National Park and their glaciers, access to state parks and recreation, access to the ocean and fishing, and the Sea Life Center to inspire conservation. Many people in the world do not experience what we do from our backyard, and I am proud of Seward for always trying to push to become more sustainable so that we can enjoy these precious ecosystems for many more generations to come. I am especially proud of Seward for pushing to install heat pumps for efficient building heating, and also conducting the flow study for the hydro project to potentially start renewable electricity production. These two actions tie in perfectly with 2020 Earth Day theme of climate action. I'm proud of what we've accomplished, and I look forward to seeing what actions we will take in the future to preserve the things we've enjoyed for so many generations to come. This is from Carol Griswold. Thank you for including the discussion item to reschedule the city attorney interviews. In these unprecedented times, virtual communications, like our city council meetings, has become the norm and may continue indefinitely. I urge council to schedule virtual interviews with the two law firm applicants as soon as possible. Ensure that the public has access to view or listen and comment. We need solid, understandable legal services. There is no reason to wait. In regards to using cruise ship head tax money to support the Alaska Sea Life Center, I agree with the finance director that this is not an appropriate use. This facility is not the Seward Sea Life Center, and we cannot be expected to continue to make up the deficit. I do not support council approval of a city loan agreement. I wholeheartedly support the pursuit of financial support by the Alaska Sea Life Center and the Seward Association for the Advancement of Marine Science. This includes COVID-19 relief loans available for nonprofits in the CARES Act, bank loans, grants, EVOS Trustee Council, and other private, state, and federal financial assistance. I'm excited about the electric vehicle charging stations and hope we can get these installed soon. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. Stay well. Two left. From Nicole Lawrence, I would like to voice my support for Tony Buckland's Earth Day proclamation, as well as the KPB ordinance establishing borough-wide resilience and security commission. Regarding the Earth Day proclamation, it is my opinion that based on the development and continued interest in the Sustainable Seward Group, there are clearly many community members who care about our local environment and are willing to put the time and effort towards making a positive impact. Since the theme of 2020 Earth Day is climate action, I hope that the Port and Commerce Advisory Board will continue to stand behind efforts towards a climate action plan as well. I am also in support of Resolution 20-031. Multiple environmental changes can be seen around the world. On a borough level, it is an important time to have a group looking out for ways to protect our local environment and serve as a bridge between our communities, administrators, and scientific experts. We rely on our environment for food safety, recreation, and many of our jobs. I hope this commission will improve the borough's ability to develop effective policies to protect our community's interest and those of future generations. And finally, I got an email, it came in at 5:01. With permission, I'll read it.
Yes,
Approved, okay. From Laura Schneider. Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the clerk's office, MIS, and city staff for adapting to these times and making this meeting possible. We appreciate and applaud your efforts. I would like to address 3 items. First, I would like to ask the city to provide a letter of support for Alaska Energy Authority to pursue federal funding to promote the use of electric vehicles. The email from Rebecca Garrett on page 9 of the packet asks that the letter be received by April 20th. As this technology takes hold in Alaska, it will be imperative that Seward has the infrastructure to support it. The AEA will be a great partner in reaching that goal, and I believe we should support their efforts. Next, I would like to speak in favor of Resolution 20-031. This commission's work will align well with the work being done in this arena by PACAB. The borough will be served well by a commission whose purpose is to forecast future challenges and come up with actionable plans to adapt to them. I believe they will be a valuable partner in the city's efforts to do the same thing. And finally, I would like to ask the city officially join the Climate Action Planning cohort being led by the GOES Institute, Lotus Engineering, and staff from the University of Alaska. Members of council and PACAB attended an initial discussion about this effort on March 19th. They are now looking for communities to officially sign on to the project. This is an excellent opportunity to get tailored guidance for those who are experienced in this type of planning and can help Seward craft a thoughtful, proactive plan for our future. Signing on does not commit the city financially in any way. The time required to participate in the program can be supplied by PACAB members and other volunteers rather than taking city staff time. Please reference the email forwarded by the clerk from Louis Flora dated April 3rd for more information. I really appreciate you taking the time to consider these matters during this time of crisis. I hope that with some serious planning and the efforts of this awesome community that Seward will be ready for all the challenges that face us in the years to come. I wish you all health and wellness. Thank you for taking your time, and I so look forward to seeing you all soon. Seward strong. And that is the end of the citizen comments.
Great, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Next on the agenda is approval of the agenda and consent agenda. I will ask council members to state their name when making a motion and also state their name when making a second, please.
McClure, I move for the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
I got Osenga.
Osenga seconded, thank you. I'm going to call for any changes or additions to the agenda, and I'm going to go through the list. Councilmember Cease, did you have any changes to the agenda or consent agenda?
No, I didn't, thank you.
Councilmember Osenga?
I did not have any changes.
Thank you. Councilmember Buckland?
I'd like to make one change to the agenda. I'd like to, under 9B, number 4, postpone my discussion item to the next scheduled meeting on April 27th.
Is there any objections from council? No. Thank you very much. Do you have any other changes, Councilmember Buckland?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Butts?
None.
Thank you. Councilmember Kreitz.
Yes, I would like to remove item 2020-028 from consent agenda. I wanted to discuss some additional wording.
Thank you. Councilmember, Vice Mayor McClure?
None.
I would like to remove Resolution 2020-032, both from the consent agenda and also from the agenda tonight. I just want to say a few words about that. The clerk and I discussed this, and I'm in strong support. She's requested that it be taken off just based on the economic climate that we have. I'm going to add that, a cost of living adjustment and a raise at this time is well deserved. We've already held her evaluation, and council agrees that, we'd be voting on it, but we did have many praises to say for her ongoing job performance, but I do agree with her request to have it removed from the agenda. Is there any, I'll just ask if there's any objections from council.
None.
Great, thank you. I'll just quickly say, is there anything else for the good of the order that anyone else would like to add? Hearing none. I'll also say that Councilmember Baclan, thank you for postponing that item to the April 27th. While I believe that it is in the best interest for council to continue what we've done with the city attorney interviews, I also think that with the next 2 weeks calling for a surge with the current virus situation that we're dealing with, I think it makes sense for us to remain focused and vigilant on the crisis at hand and then rescheduling those interviews on the 27th. So thank you for doing that. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Voting on tonight's agenda and consent agenda. Osenga? Osenga? Voting on the agenda and consent agenda.
Sorry, Osenga, yes.
Thank you. McClure?
McClure, yes.
Butts?
But yes.
Kreitz?
Christ, yes.
Cease?
Yes.
Baclan?
Bachline, yes.
And Mayor Terry.
Yes.
Your agenda and consent agenda are approved. Approved on tonight's consent agenda is Resolution 20-027, extending the city's current state of emergency in response to the coronavirus COVID-19 outbreak and requesting state and federal relief assistance. Resolution 20-029, authorizing the city manager to purchase dumpsters for the city campgrounds and the Seward Boat Harbor from Capital Industries in the amount of $89,070 and appropriating funds. Resolution 20-030, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Hamilton Construction Incorporated for constructing an ADA-compliant ramp and parking at City Hall in the amount of $80,663 and appropriating funds. Resolution 20-031, supporting the establishment of a Kenai Peninsula Borough Resilience and Security Commission. Also approved on consent are the March 23rd, 2020 City Council regular meeting minutes, a new liquor license and restaurant designation permit on number 5872 for Firebrand Barbecue has been approved, and there is non-objection to the renewal of liquor license number 324, beverage dispensary for the Seward Ale House.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next on the agenda is special ordered presentations and reports. We have a proclamation tonight. The first one is for Earth Day. Whereas Earth Day is an annual reminder of the continued need for environmental stewardship, commitments, and sustainability efforts, and whereas Earth Day was founded in 1970 and is celebrated by over 119 countries around the world, and whereas the theme of Earth Day 2020 is climate action, and communities throughout the borough are planning numerous events to mark the occasion, and where it is understood that sustainability will only be achieved by meeting the needs of the present without compromising the needs of future generations, whereas it is more important than ever to cooperate locally and internationally to defend the environmental progress that has been heretofore gained. And now therefore I, Christy Terry, Mayor of the City of Seward, Alaska, do hereby proclaim the week of April 18th, 2020 to April 25th, 2020 as week-long celebration of the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, and do encourage all residents of the City of Seward to celebrate by making a conscious personal choice to protect the welfare of the environment by doing such things as reducing waste, recycling, conserving energy, insulating homes and businesses, growing and consuming locally grown produce, and using active transport. The next proclamation on the agenda is for National Library Week and Amnesty Month. Whereas libraries everywhere play a vital role in transforming lives by supporting and enriching the quality of life in their communities, campuses, and schools, even during the time of mass closures across the country due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas librarians are trained professionals helping people of all ages and backgrounds find and interpret the information they need to create, learn, live, seek employment, and work in a challenging economy. And whereas libraries serve as crucial technology hubs that provide internet access, public access computers, equipment, and online resources and assistance. And whereas libraries promote and support literacy in all its forms through continuing education, cultural engagement, and early literacy, lifelong learning, personal productivity, programs, research, and recreational opportunities. And whereas libraries continuously grow and evolve to meet the information needs of every community member in order to strengthen their communities. And whereas the work named above continues through digital, remote, and virtual means, even while our physical doors are closed to the public. And whereas the American Library Association has called us to celebrate National Library Week on April 19th through 25th, 2020. And whereas during the month of April and the COVID-19 closure, the Seward Community Library and Museum Director has declared amnesty on Seward Library overdue fines. And now therefore I, Christy Terry, Mayor of the City of Seward, Alaska, do hereby proclaim April 19th through April 25th as National Library Week and Library Amnesty for the citizens of Seward, and encourage everyone to use digital and online library resources in honor of National Library Week. Both those proclamations will be provided to those organizations. They have been signed and the clerk will carry them on. So thank you. Thank you for everyone involved with those. Borough Assembly report. I don't believe that he's on the phone. Our Borough Assembly Representative Ken Carpenter did provide a report in our packet. They canceled the April 7th meeting and set for another day, so the Borough report at this time. The April 21st meeting could be on Zoom, but still waiting for confirmation. I believe all that information can be found on the Borough website. They held a special meeting on Zoom on April 3rd and passed 4 emergency ordinances pertaining to the coronavirus. So thank you to Representative Carpenter. And then Vice Mayor, did you have any comments?
Yeah, this is McClure. I just wanted to point out to the public that there are some people that look forward to their meeting in Seward. That would have been on the 21st, and that has been, they will not be coming to Seward to meet. They'll be having a Zoom meeting from there probably, but we'll miss out on that this year, I believe.
And I might just check with, I'm sure not a lot of council members will have any comments, but I'll just give a brief pause here if anyone else has any comments regarding the Borough Assembly report or if there's any questions. Great, hearing none. Next item on the agenda is the City Manager's report. Manager Mazzaros?
I gotta
Yeah.
take this off. I'm sweating to death. Just while I'm speaking. I do want to draft, I want to point everyone's attention to the city website. I don't know if you've looked at that. There are a lot of resources. Brenda does a status report after every JIC meeting. So all of our press releases are on the COVID-19 web link. There's a ton of resources about the city's regulations and the state mandates. So it does have some FAQs that are specific to Seward. And we have we'll talk about the items with the rule changes later, but I would like to direct everyone's attention to those on the website as well. It has a lot of resources there as well for private business that is not getting any kind of funding, so there's loans. One of the items on our list is the Sea Life Center. There are some resources that they are pursuing. I do want to bring your attention that I did write letters to both of our state representatives on behalf of the Sea Life Center. And also today, Nils sent out an update, which I'll pass on to Tara, about the Federal Reserve Loan Program, which is a low-interest loan program for them as well. Unless you have something specific in the report, I don't want to take too much time to go through all that, but I think it's really important to get on there and look through those resources. It takes a lot of time, but there is a lot of helpful information and updates that are very specific, but in tonight's meeting, we'll get a little more into answering some of the questions. I know there were a lot of good questions and statements. We did already provide a support letter to the AEA for the electric vehicles. And I know there's some questioning on those two projects being funded at this time. Those are both really overdue projects from the last council that they really pushed to have on the spring agenda. They were already prepared and out to bid, so I think it's hard to stop something like that when it takes the kind of effort it does to get them vetted. And we don't have anything, we even looked at welding a lot of our destroyed dumpsters, and the cost on that is pretty absorbent, and it takes a lot of staff time to do those kind of updates. So we do really closely look at those fiscal impacts, and it's not the best time to be doing anything right now, but we are ratcheting back. We do have a current hiring freeze. We have had several people that have left, that we have vacated their positions. Today was the personnel officer Riley's last day. So we're trying to do more with less, and asking a lot from our staff to step up and do multiple jobs. And I think that's the only way we justify by having them on, is if they're doing a voluminous amount of work in each of their positions. And we'll evaluate that as it goes forward with how we handle that. So.
Great, thank you. So I'll go through again, council members, if they have any questions. Councilmember Osenga?
No.
Thank you. Councilmember Baclan?
No.
Councilmember Butts?
No.
Councilmember Kreitz?
No.
Vice Mayor McClure?
No.
Thank you. Well, I'll buck the trend. I do have a couple questions. I want to thank council members on the phone for bearing with me, and I really appreciate you all have been very clear. I do have a couple questions. Thank you for bringing up the COVID-19 button on the city website. I do want to refer people to that, and there is also an app for your phone. So if you get the app for your phone, that button's pretty prominent. And also, the other option is the city clerk. After we have, after the community work group meets 3 times a week, the city clerk is sending out updates with a lot of valuable information. So if you are interested in getting that, you just need to email the clerk, and it's clerk@cityofseward.net, and she will add you to that list. That's a really easy way to get a lot of information quickly. I do have a question for you, City Manager, is I do also want to let the public know that a virtual EOC is stood up. Could you talk about what that entails, please?
Sure. So the chain of command for us is really this local city EOC is activated. It is not convened in here where it normally would be. It's virtual, so there is the PIO has a phone, and there's a pass-off phone that currently Fire Chief Kreitz carries. There hasn't been a lot of activity on that. However, we do have a daily Office of Emergency Management 9 a.m. Meeting, and fortunately, Chief Kreitz has taken most of those calls today. It's every single day. And so our chain is really, it goes from the local level at the municipality here to the Office of Emergency Management at the borough. Dan and his staff are, our requests and our takes from the hospital and the clinic go through us, and they also work collaboratively with us to try to get preparation and understand, what's happening here locally. But then really the asks and requests go to the borough level, and then from there they take it to the state level. So it's really a chain of command type of operation. It's hard to tell what's happening anywhere in the state, and that's why it's critical, like with PPE, whatever's happening in the health arena here. So they're looking at the statewide level, and they try to allocate the resources as we need them. Fortunately, today the Mayor Berkowitz is also a place that I get information from. The strong mayor form of government is a lot different than our municipal government level with the manager form. But it's informative, and the governor and the mayor, things change every day. I think all of us learn and keep apprised of that. It's hard to put that type of information out at our level. I think that all of the media outlet from us so far has been online, which I think that's really, I have to thank a lot of our staff. Brenda, Valerie has been instrumental in that as well, and MIS to get that. I mean, a lot of places around the state even come to our site, so that's a very resourceful tool. I do say that we're approachable, and most of our staff is callable, if not emailable, all times. So reach out to us if you have asks or questions. I think, a lot of the stuff I've been seeing and hearing, it's challenging. A lot of the travel mandates are very difficult. I did hear today at 5 o'clock that Anchorage is looking at extending to May 15th. I don't know, for us, we initiated and set that to April 24th, and everybody thought that was very long-reaching. But all of the items that were approved tonight, those have to be renewed every 30 days on the emergency declaration, and the rules are good for 90 days. So if we adjust or amend the rules, if we don't have changes, they're only good for 90 days, and then if we do have changes, they get updated and would be valid for 90 days again. So does that?
Great, yep, that's what I was looking for. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just one more opportunity, I'm not going to call names, but were there any further questions?
I do have one, last one.
Thank you.
I just wanted to know, especially for the city manager, are all departments working and operational to some extent, either in office or at home?
So far to date, all of our departments are active. That's a good question. The harbor has gone to summer hours, so they're open 7 days a week on their summer times. That helps to separate the two shifts in the day, to separate them except for the 2 hours of overlap. But it is a little challenging because it is longer hours, it is longer days. We're having a lot of boats and things put in the water right now, which brings with it its challenges. A lot of the people are coming from Anchorage and out of town, and they're putting in boats, and there's people that want chains and different things. One of the questions we get constantly is how come we don't shut down the highway? Obviously, the state has a lot of mandates attached to 11 and 12. I think going over those explicitly is challenging because there's a lot of exemptions and a lot of things that maybe contradict what most people would think is to keep people from coming here. It's difficult because the second homeowners and people, they might think it's essential to come make sure that their home is not flooding or having problems. So those are difficult things to gauge. We had several department heads today that had to go to Anchorage. For instance, the bristles on our sweeper were broken. So that's kind of and when you do that, our staff has gone up there, they had to take a police vehicle up. So they try to go up, drop it off, minimize contact, get out, and not necessarily do what they might do if they were in Anchorage and go to Costco or that type of thing. So it's challenging to get what we need here. Not everything is in Seward, so we try to always utilize what is local and support our local businesses. And we'll talk about that into the rules about, what's the purpose of some of the rules and the door postings and notices, and how do we implement that more effectively? I think those are all good questions. Does that help answer your question, Councilmember Bachlan?
Yes, thank you.
I might just have a quick follow-up. So when you said yes, so people, there's a mixture of people working from home, essential services being provided in the community, And then also people potentially are using the federal leave for if they have daycare issues or health issues or.
So that's a good
I mean,
question.
I know you can't say specifically,
Sure.
but there's a lot of things happening.
So when we first started this, the city tried to implement having all of our non-critical staff trying to be sent home. So we didn't have all of the people in their normal workspaces in close proximity. And that's been challenging just from an MIS perspective as well as from a productivity. So I've constantly been calling out to my department heads, if you have people that, so planning, for instance, they're doing code revision, they have a lot of projects coming in, so they're actively working on the projects and things, and I hold each department accountable to doing their workload. But I also have a lot of other needs now that we have some of this critical, some of this COVID-19 process requires forms and process and checking and doing some spreadsheet work. It requires finance to do some interesting things they're not accustomed to. So it's not all just business as usual. But I think as we move forward, obviously the financial component of this, the city doesn't have endless reserves. We would, moving forward, depending on how long this is to be sustained, you know, we start looking at our part-time staffing, and as if they are part-time and non-essential, at what point would we maybe look at furloughing them or not having them do their hours? As we get too deep into this, the city has pretty healthy reserves in most of our enterprises, but the general fund is always a concern, and we actually have a decent healthy reserve, which is about 6 months. Most cities don't have that much, so you're seeing in the lower 48, you know, big counties and big cities are furloughing half of their staff and essential critical personnel. I think until we get a little further, like you said, April, getting into the start of May, it's really hard to tell where we're going to go with our needs. But I think budget and financing that is also, you know, we keep hearing that this help is coming. It's not necessarily coming at the municipal level. It's more of a state and individual business owner type of assistance. And, you know, a lot of those assistances are loans. So it's still important that we let, you know, the question was asked, you know, we're waiving our late fees, we're not charging interest for utilities. That doesn't mean if you can't pay, obviously you can't pay, but you know, it's hard as this goes further into it. People that miss, you know, 5 house payments are not so concerned about their electric payment as they are, how do I catch up and how do these things happen? And that's a national issue that I don't know how we're going to work through that, but I would presume that, like a lot of the things you see on TV, the mortgage companies are like, call us up, they'll probably just tack that on the end, which, you know, if you're behind, it's going to hurt you in the interest, but they likely will leave those things and put them on at the end. So I know that's not reassuring to people that can't do that. There, again, our resources and Brenda, the immense amount of support in the community and the volunteers. There are, if you're sick, we don't have a lot of confirmed cases, but if you're sick, please call. We'll get you help. Our staff, volunteers, we will get out to you. We will get groceries for you. We will do what's necessary. We'll walk your dog, but don't feel like it's imperative that you leave. If you're quarantined, stay there. Take advantage of these resources. And there's, you know, the health end of it is really good about identifying those people and trying to work with them. So please know that you're not alone, and we're here to assist. But it's nice to know as well, in a small community, those people are willing to assist and help and do things. And please reach out if you need that. And same thing financially. I mean, it's going to be difficult moving forward for all communities and all people. So it's scary. It's frightening.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is other reports and announcements. We have none. Presentations, we're glad to be not joined, but virtually have our favorite Tim Dillon from the Kenai Peninsula Economic Development District here to give a presentation. We're getting him on the phone right now.
So the presentation slides start on page 14 of the packet to follow along. And Madam Mayor, can I say while we're dialing Mr. Dillon in, when I read off Resolution 20-030. I believe I said Hamilton Construction, and that was an error. It should be
it's
Harmon Construction.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Dillon, Executive Director, press 2. You are being transferred to Tim Dillon.
Sorry about that.
No, that's good. That was perfect timing. Thank you.
Hello, this is Tim.
Hi, Tim. We can hear you. Thank you for joining us on this virtual meeting. We appreciate it. Brenda we've just introduced you, and Brenda told folks where they can find your PowerPoint in the packet.
Perfect. Will you tell me when you're ready for me to start talking?
It is all you.
Perfect. The first screen that should be up there is the beautiful picture of Seward, and it's got our logo. It just says Seward Community Update. And I will, as I'm speaking, I'll tell you when to go to the next slide. So if you go to the next slide, one of the things that we did in order to try and assist not only our local politicians, but also our folks from the my screen went blank. But also the folks down in DC was make sure that they had good data. So as we looked at trying to figure out what resources were needed, we could go ahead and give them some information. So we did this survey. We had 721 businesses across the borough that participated. And just so that you know, when you compare that to our colleagues up in Anchorage and in Southeast, we had more businesses participate in our borough than Anchorage and Southeast combined. So
Great job.
we feel real good about the results, and it gave us a good snapshot. If you go to the next slide, this is something that really helps us. We've talked a lot about how diverse the Kenai Peninsula Borough is. This is a perfect example of how diverse we are. There's 19 different kinds of businesses that were represented in our survey. And as most people will tell you, tourism and hospitality takes a big chunk. 28.2% of the survey participants were from the tourism and the hospitality area. We asked a variety of different questions. One of the things that we found out, which we thought was going to be pretty close on being accurate, was that most of our businesses on the peninsula are small. They're 1 to 5 folks that are working in a business. If you look at the next slide, you'll see that doesn't change during the peak business period either. You still have the 1 to 5. You see some of it creeping up, but nothing really major above 20, 25 folks. So again, you're talking about small cottage industry type businesses that people run here on the peninsula. One of the questions we asked was whether they had seen any disruption. Now remember, this was in March when we did this, and it was a week-long survey. And already at that point, we had seen 91.9% of the survey respondents said that they had already experienced disruption in their business. The next slide was, do you expect some kind of a decline in revenue? Well, this is interesting because 84% of the folks said yes, and there was a little bit of a higher number than we expected, with 16% saying no at that point. I believe that if we went out with this survey again, we probably would see some additional folks that would be leaning towards yes instead of no. The next slide, you can see that it's really scary. 91 to 100% folks are estimating there's a large number, there's 130 people or 130 businesses saying that they are projecting a 91 to 100% decrease in their revenue. That is very, very scary. If you look at the next slide, it'll show you that when they compare the first half of 2020 compared to 2019, there's been a decrease, a significant decrease. And remember again, this was done the last week in December. So we've been, we're 12 days into when this thing closed. So my guess is we would see even more folks with a significant decrease.
You go to the next slide. This was something that we were very pleased with. At this point, people were still saying, no, we haven't made any employment reductions. And that was a good thing, because one of the messages we kept giving everybody was, you know what, I know people are saying put people on unemployment, lay them off, and that'll be the best thing for you. Every business is a little bit different, and what we kept preaching to folks was before you do that, make a phone call. Talk to the folks at the Department of Labor, and they can walk you through a couple of scenarios, and you can figure out whether it made sense for you as a business owner or for your staff. And again, one of the cool parts that we saw out of this whole survey was that people were trying to take care of not only their business, but especially taking care of their staffs. You go to the next slide, you'll see that it was a large number of folks that were either yes or unsure of what kind of employment cuts they were going to have to make due to the future. So you only had 23.9% of the folks saying, no, don't think we're going to have to make any employment cuts. That's a huge number, that the unsure and yes. I was asked on a radio show here a couple of days ago, hey, what's the big question that everybody asks you when they call you? And I told the reporter, it's not a question, it's more of a statement. It's help. You know, what can you do to help me? I don't even know what I don't know. And I think that's really important right now, is folks not even knowing what the right questions are to be asking. You go to the next slide, this is something that we were preaching right from the get-go, and we were being told by the folks in Anchorage and the folks in Juneau that we didn't know what we were talking about. That the supply chain was fine, there's plenty of supplies, doesn't matter what you're looking for, whether it be toilet paper or groceries or anything, you know, you must be mistaken. Well, that's not accurate. Between this slide and if you look at the next slide, you will see that between the vendors and the service providers and the supply chain, it's been a big problem here on the peninsula. And it's something that I think is probably going to continue to be a little worse before it gets better. And we've been able to take this information and use it with Senator Murkowski and Senator Sullivan and Congressman Young to be able to show them, hey, listen, you may be being told one thing, but here are the people with boots on the ground, people that have these little shops and have these things, and they can't get supplies. One of the perfect stories that I got, because besides all of the information from the survey, I got 48 pages of single-spaced comments from people all over the peninsula. One of the things was, hey, I own a cleaning business, and I would love to be able to take on new clients. There's lots of people calling us wanting their places clean, but I can't get supplies. I only have enough supplies for my year-round people that I work with all the time already. And until we can open up more supply chain things when it comes to Clorox and disinfectants and toilet paper and things, I can't take on anybody else. I thought that was very, very telling when we got that comment. Next slide. Is your business at risk of closing permanently because of the impact? This was the most depressing piece of the whole survey. When you look at this and you see that 68% of the people are either unsure or yes, that's scary. Only 31.7% of the folks having businesses on the peninsula that responded to the survey were able to say, no, we're fine, we're going to be okay. That's a real scary number when you look at the yes and unsure. My feeling is if we went out again with this here in the next week or two with the same exact questions, that you would see probably a huge change there. But what we're trying to do is, as most people know, our phones have been ringing off the hook. We've been averaging 45 to 65 calls a day here at KPED trying to assist people, whether it be with the SBD side or with some of the overarching things with the federal government. If you look at the next slide, this is very, very important. Unfortunately, you know, we have a lot of folks out there that they're not going to let a good disaster go to waste. They've come up with all their scams and different things going on. Please, please, please remind your neighbors, talk to your older folks, your retired folks. There are a lot of things out there. People are making phone calls, asking for things. Double and triple check before you go ahead and give out any information over the phone. The other thing is, if you're applying for something, make sure that you read the fine print very, very carefully. One of the things that we keep hearing is that, hey, it's not a problem if I go ahead and apply for PPE or PPP, the payroll protection, as a grant, it's not a problem. There are more hoops that you have to jump through in order to change it from a loan to a grant. Go into it with your eyes open. Make sure that you realize it's a loan with the potential of it being turned into a grant. But there's no guarantee when you sign on the dotted line that that's going to turn into a grant. And especially if you're in the tourism industry or the hospitality industry, there's a variety of different numbers and dates you need to look at. For example, how many people did you have on board as far as staff on February 20th? How many are you going to have at the end of this? If you can't show that you've either retained or increased, you are not getting that loan redone for yourself. It's not going to be a grant. It's going to stay as a loan. If you go to the next slide, one of the things that I worked on with the city managers and a variety of the mayors and such a couple of weeks ago was we were trying to figure out, okay, we have some products that we need to figure out here in the state of Alaska to be able to produce in-state so we don't have to rely on anybody else. Plus, it could put some people back to work. We were fortunate here in the borough. We were able to not only get several different manufacturing contracts for folks that could put together PPEs, like, for example, Nomars down in Homer. A lot of folks know of Nomars. Well, they're out there building PPEs now. They've got a great contract with trying to provide that. The other was getting 3D printers. 3D printers, I learned a lot about 3D printers from right there in Seward, from the high school, and the great principal you've got, and these young people, and the things that they were doing with the drones. Well, we found out that you could go ahead with a commercial 3D printer and start producing some of the pieces of equipment that the hospitals needed, some of the pieces of equipment for respirators and things. So there's several of those contracts. I want to say there's a total of 6 contracts that we were able to get here in the borough, that are putting people back to work, working on these kinds of things. The next slide, please, where it says federal emergency funding to combat. Funding process. We all know about the SBD and what they're doing right now, and the loan programs and the grants. There's also this additional $1.26 billion that's going to come to the state. One of the things that they've been wrestling with is how do we get it on the streets? How do we get it to individual communities? I've been involved in, normally it's 2 to 3 times a week, conference calls that include Senator Begich, Governor Parnell, Commissioner Anderson, Lieutenant Governor Meyer, and several other individuals trying to figure out, okay, how do we get the monies to the individual communities? For example, last time around when fisheries money was available because of the disaster, the money went to NOAA, and then it took forever for money to come out, and how it came out. One of the suggestions, in fact, before the legislature went out on recess, was they went ahead, in fact, Zach Fields is who put it into the piece of legislation, is that to work with the arters, which is what we are here on the Kenai Peninsula, to help get the money into people's hands. So we're going to play a role, we're just not sure what role we're going to play, and we're working closely with ADA, who probably will be almost like the mothership of a lot of the dollars. The Denali Commission will also be involved, but using the agencies and the organizations that are already set up to be able to handle these kinds of things. One of the big areas we've been working on is the nonprofit side. I've had several discussions with Lori Wolf, the head of 4Acre. We're trying to work on, okay, this is the first time nonprofits are eligible for some of these kinds of monies. Well, what's important to the nonprofits? What is it that we're looking to do to help them so that we make sure that the guidelines match up with the money and making sure that it's getting to the right people? The next slide, if you want to do something for yourself today, and I'm going to call on everybody in Seward to do this, 10 minutes, 10 questions, 10 years of funding. Go online to 2020census.gov. As of this afternoon, the city of Seward has only responded at the rate of 14.4%. We've got to get that number up. The overall country is at 38.1. The state of Alaska is at 32. Please know you don't need a PIN number. You don't need a code number. Just go online. We are going to need every extra penny we can out of the federal government over the next couple of years, especially in order to make sure that we make a full recovery. This is something you can do, and you can do it today. So please, anytime you're sending out any information, all of you council members, you all have social networks that you work with, put it online, get people to do things. I want to see that needle to move here in the next couple days, and we need you all to do that. Next slide. You've got a member right there, John Asinga from the council. We actually chatted today. Our board is meeting this Thursday. If you need something and you don't, haven't been able to get to me, go to John. He'll be able to get to me. But 9 chances out of 10, you'll be able to get to me. But you'll be able to also talk with John. He's brand new on our board, but he's learning like a sponge, and we appreciate him being there for us. The next slide, we're looking forward, not backwards. A couple of things we got to remember. This is not going away tomorrow. So what we want to do is continue to be positive. One of the things that we're telling people is, let's point towards September 1. We could be off one way or the other. That's fine. We're just trying to point people in the direction. Let's look at September 1, and here's some things that we all can be doing. Let's make sure our web presence for our business is up to date and up to speed, so that you can make sure that when people are ready to start traveling, they know that Seward is a destination. The other thing is, this is the perfect time for us to be working on our shoulder seasons. We're working closely with your chamber already, and Jason gets it, and I know a lot of the chamber members get it. We've talked over and over again, what can we do to help with our shoulder season? Well, this is the perfect opportunity for us to really look at what we can do and build off of that. Remember, people from the lower 48 are probably not going to be coming up in droves this summer, and they're really not going to come up in September. What we have to do is concentrate on the rest of the people around the state of Alaska. Remember, the Kenai Peninsula Borough is Alaska's playground. Let's remind people of that, and let's make sure this fall we have as many people that are looking for vacation to show up down here on the Kenai Peninsula. Having said that, the other thing we're working on is an economic resiliency plan over the next year. So we've got a variety of different things we're going to be coming to each of the cities with. It looks like we're going to get an expansion of our revolving loan program, and I can tell you, our current revolving loan program has been excellent for us to have. We've been helping a lot of folks with bridge money while they're waiting for the PPP and their other loans to be able to come through. We also have signed an agreement with a manufacturing extension program with the feds. And the final thing on our project update is every 5 years we do a comprehensive economic development strategy. This is the strategy that I talked about back several months ago about the earthquake and why we were the ones that were handling a variety of those things. It's because we will spend the time with the communities. We want every community to be able to see themselves in our comprehensive plan. So we're going to kick that off come July 1. We're actually going to do a formal retreat with our full board sometime in August. But you'll be hearing a lot about this over the next year because we want to make sure that when you look at our comprehensive economic development strategy, that you see yourself there. You're not going to see every last little piece of it. You're not going to agree with every last little piece. But we want every organized and unorganized community on the Kenai Peninsula to see themselves in our SEDS update. On that note, we'll go to the last slide. I tried to go as quickly as possible. I know you guys have had a long day. I thank you very much for your time and help, and I appreciate all the help and support that you guys have been giving us. And I think, we've been answering a lot of phone calls and trying to help as many people as possible, but I'd be more than happy to answer any questions there, Ms. Mayor, and it's all you.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon. I'm going to go through our council members and see if there's any questions. Councilmember Baclan? Councilmember Butts?
No.
Thank you. Councilmember Butts?
No questions.
Councilmember Kreitz?
No.
Councilmember Cease?
I do have one thing there. Tomorrow at the Chamber in Seward, they are doing a conference call or an educational thing on a loan. That isn't the PPP loan for payroll, because that is closed right now until they get some more money. But the loan that a small business person can take out, sometimes they'll get $10,000 right up front, and I'm trying to figure out how to do it. But tomorrow there is something online through the chamber. And I tell you, at first I was supposed to be on Thursday, but it is tomorrow. So I don't know if it's 1 or 2 o'clock, probably 2. And it's on Zoom. So maybe anybody that's interested in that can go to that. But I just know that the PPP one for the payroll are done for right now until they get some more money.
Great, thank you.
Christie, can I comment?
Please do.
First of all, that's not an accurate comment. It has not completely closed down. There's just 2 of the banks out of the 6 that aren't processing loans because they're overwhelmed right now. But there's a variety of other banks that are still accepting applications on that. The other thing that you said that I wanted to make sure people understood is that $10,000 advance is based on the number of people that you employ. So just because you fill that out and you ask for the $10,000, please know that it will be prorated depending on the size of your staff. So if you only have 4 people working for you, you're not going to get a $10,000 advance. So make sure you know that in advance. So one of the things that I'm really trying to make sure people do is read every last line of anything that you sign. Make sure you read the fine print, because that doesn't mean that you're going to get that 10 grand automatically.
Great, thank
Well,
you.
I understand that, Tim, but the bank has told us that a week ago, last week Tuesday, that those, or the PPP one was closed for the time being. There may be more, there are people that are out there right now that their name is on the list, but that doesn't mean they're going to open it up. Now, unless the bank has been not telling me the whole thing.
Well, again, each one of the banks, and again, I don't want to speak back and forth and stuff. I kind of know what I'm talking about from the calls I'm on.
Okay.
Every bank is set up a little differently. I can tell you that there are banks accepting applications.
So Tim, if there's perhaps a business that's interested and has been told that loan isn't available through that bank, they can contact you for some more details?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And Cheryl, Councilmember Cease, that was a great tip about the virtual meeting with the chamber. So if folks want to make sure they know the time on that, they could probably reach out either Facebook messaging or director@chamber.org or call their number. Councilmember Osenga, thank you for serving on that board. Did you have any comments tonight?
I have no comments and no questions, thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor McClure?
No, I have none.
Okay, great. Tim, I don't have any questions either. I just want to say we really appreciate you making time. I think while we're dealing with this current crisis, we know that there's another crisis hot on the heels, that people will suffer. And I wanted to thank you for using a picture of my daughter from about 4th or 5th grade on your Alaska Counts census slide. I don't know that you did that on purpose, but thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thanks for hanging on. We know you had 2 to do, and we just always appreciate your time and your advocacy here in Seward.
Whatever we can do, please let me know. And again, get people to go online and do the census. And again, anybody has questions, if they've been told no to something, have them call me, 283-3335.
Great. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Okay,
Thank
be
you.
well.
Thanks, Sandy.
Next on the agenda, there are no public hearings. There is no unfinished business. We're now down to 9 new business items. The first resolution on that is Resolution 2020-028. Madam Clerk, would you read that title into the agenda?
Resolution 20-028 is ratifying additional temporary emergency operation rules and procedures implemented by the city manager in response to the public health emergency caused by COVID-19.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if I sound like I'm yelling. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm enunciating through my
Right.
mask. I'm looking right now for a motion.
This is McClure. I move for the approval of Resolution 2020-028.
And if I could have a second.
Second. Stay here.
Cease.
Okay, cease for a second. Right now, I'm going to turn that resolution over to the city manager for information, please.
Take this off again.
Yeah,
So, just a couple things to start out before we get into all the rules and changes. So these are mandates passed down by the governor that locally we try to take in and make sure that we're enforcing or upholding those. I do want to talk a little bit about the sentiment that we should close all the doors to Seward and keep the highway, and people there shouldn't come here. We are not a small community, and we are on the road system, so we don't have that exemption. There are lots of communities, especially northern communities, outlying small communities, that have shut down all outsiders coming and going. Usually they're places like, there's several on Kodiak, for instance, that are 38 people. They are not allowing anybody to come in or to leave. We can essentially do that, and we do have critical infrastructure. So we'll get into the rules a little bit, but so the initial rules we passed, and they were ratified by the council, were done on the 17th and the 18th, and then they were ratified at the 23rd meeting. So since that time, we've had mandates 11 and 12 come out. And specifically, those are, health mandate 11 is the social distancing. So again, social distancing, you keep seeing it on TV and understanding that. We'll get into the rule, I'll read that. And then mandate 12 is the interstate travel, which it states basically that it prohibits all in-state travel between communities unless travel is to support critical infrastructure or for critical personal needs. And so in drafting some of these, our attorney helped me to draft these. I don't know if you wanted me to have her assist us if we get into these, if we have questions. But the first one, so all of the new rules are underlined. So they're pretty easy to see what the changes are. And these were put in place last week. They have to be ratified. The council can change these rules. They can strike the rules. They can add rules. But just real quickly to go through them for the listening audience. Rule 11.1 is all businesses serving members of the public in physical locations within the city. So now this doesn't include anything outside city limits, anything that's online or doesn't have personal encounters. They are to follow these required rules. And these basically are just mandates expanded upon, and so there are some components. There's right now a lot of the large multi-personnel things you think of, I don't want to use the names in the community of those processors is one example. There's several of them here. Those large businesses are actually mandated to file plans with the state. And essentially they're doing that. Locally, we've created a rule where if they don't do that, they have to file a contract with us. The contract essentially is them upholding the mandate, but if we don't have a contract with them, it's difficult to legally go back on them and enforce that. So the first rule, 11.1, with this all businesses serving, there's a door hanger. So all of the businesses are to register that are essential. I don't know, most of us haven't been to Anchorage. I see a lot of stuff on TV and whatnot. There's essential businesses that are definitely open and operated, but things like Cabela's, for whatever reason, the community has determined and their elected officials that non-essential, and I've seen postings, they actually go and they have certified this business is closed and not to operate because they were non-essential. How they deem that is a process, and that's a difficulty. But so ours, with the essential ones, especially with food, with all of the types of encounters going on, we have a sample on our website, so it gives them a sample of what they should post. They can print that out, they can amend it, they can update it, and it says that all their employees are gonna follow these processes. So like if you go, you're not just directly face-to-face with people. It's a series of events that basically allow for us to have these processes implemented easily by the business using the sample, signing the contract. And so if this is upheld and we move forward with this, my goal is some of our staff that we're trying to keep everybody extremely occupied and doing these types of things. We don't have code enforcement. I want to try to get them out, some of the staff, a handful, out in the community, and then to go to each business that's operating and make sure they have it on the door. If they aren't aware, we can educate, we can give them the applications, they could submit it. It's a fairly simple process. So that's Rule 11. The COVID protection measures and procedures are posted on the website. They would post that on their door. This is also a good way to make those businesses accountable to the customers that utilize them. So, for instance, if it says, you'll keep 6 feet and you'll do the hand washing, obviously, if you see encounters that aren't following the rules they posted, then you could reach out to us and we could, take some action on that. 11.2, the essential business critical infrastructure state protocols. So again, the state has required a health mandate. After filing these protocols or plans with the state, the city confirms the state's approval. They have up to 5 days to do such approval, and we're asking to actually not only see their plan, but see their approval of their plan that was submitted. And this is on the larger business. And we put this out, but we're going to have to do a little bit of education, and those are going to the manager@cityofseward.net email, which is a standalone email where I can compile those and delegate them off to staff, and we can track them and get them back and signed. The mutual aid agreements, this is for large operator mutual aid agreement for more than 25 employees. We would urge them to do the state required plan, but if they go on and sign this, it's ensuring that we've seen it locally. It's just a checklist. We might check like with the business licenses and cross-reference to make sure we're not missing a bunch of them. So these are just good things to have. I think a lot of the people and comments and concerns that we get are to do with outsiders coming here. I've heard this quite a bit, but the other thing is, so some of these larger companies, the big ones, we've already gotten their plans, they've already signed the forms, they do have internal quarantine, so several of them do this. The one I'm thinking of, they have their own housing set up, the quarantine people stay there, they have the food, everything is separate. All of their new to the area employees are quarantined 14 days, they do not leave their complex. So it's hard to hear, you hear comments like the J1s are coming in, people from out of the state or country. I would like to iterate, a lot of those processing positions, some of them are year-round positions, and those people have been here all winter, some of them longer than some of us. So it's easy to pass judgment and think, I don't see those people every day at Safeway. I mean, people probably, when I go to Safeway, they're like, who's that guy? Because they haven't seen me all the time, and it's easy to pass judgment. So the social distancing is Rule 12. It's basically stating that all individuals shall comply with the state mandates. No person shall enter the city boundaries for an activity in a manner that violates those state mandates. So these things are hard to determine, right? So there's essential, if you read Mandate 11, it's really conflicting about construction work and what's essential. People that come down, some of those rules under the governor's allowance does not require quarantine, and it's frustrating because everyone thinks everyone should quarantine. So I think it's really important to have rules that we can actually not only implement but take enforcement action on. Again, the duration. So just to quick go through, there's a sample on the website. They're fairly short and simple. It's going to be difficult. We're going to have to make sure that we're out there and all the active open ones that we approach them, get them to sign the forms. And then if, once we've done that, you can go back to them when they aren't following their procedures and say, hey, look, you've agreed to follow these procedures. You're not doing that. It's more of a contractual agreement than just trying to mandate what the governor's put into effect. So I don't know if that is in general, it's kind of broad.
Thank you. That's a good outline. Councilmember Kreitz, you took this off the consent agenda. I'll let you start with your comments or questions.
Thank you. Yeah, so looking at the resolution, I did want to bring to the council a request for a change or add some added wording. What I would like to see that at least inside the city limits of Seward, that it be mandatory that all people wear at minimum a cloth mask if they are not inside their residence or place of lodging. If you look on April 3rd, there was a health mandate, a health alert that was issued, health alert number 10, where Dr. Zing very firmly recommended the use of cloth face coverings for anyone who was outside. Especially in grocery stores, pharmacies, gas stations where you're going to be difficult to be 6 feet away from someone else. On April 12th, the Department of Health and Social Services also has some new recommendations that wearing a face covering, particularly if you're outside, exerting yourself, exercising, walking, taking your dog for a walk down the park. They have found that droplets can spread further than 6 feet when you're exerting yourself. So I think with the upcoming, weeks and months that we have on this, we're going to have more people coming to Seward because we can't control that aspect of it. But what we can control is that the people that are out and about and that are in the community and in the public, that at least we're getting some protection.
Councilmember Kreitz, can I have you turn to page 46 of your packet under Rule 12, social distancing? To discuss this further, we should probably have a motion on the table, just to help with what I hear you saying. After the first section, after the first sentence of that section, I wonder if there's a sentence that you want to add there that might discuss the cloth face coverings.
We could put, in addition, the city of Seward mandate that all persons inside city limits wear a cloth face mask covering at minimum, unless they are inside their residence or place of lodging.
Okay, is that your motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second it, Cheryl. I'm sorry.
Okay, so a first and second. So I'll look to Madam Clerk. Did you capture that motion, or did you want to read it back for verification?
I have, in addition, as a second sentence under Rule 12, in addition, the City of Seward mandates that all persons wear a cloth face mask if not inside their place of residence or place of lodging.
Okay, so I'm going to go through the list. Councilmember Kreitz, I'll let you speak to your motion, and then I'm going to go through council for discussion.
No, the wording on that sounds good. I just think that it's just a good opportunity for us. I know that I myself, anytime I go out, I've been trying to wear a mask when we've been out walking in town anywhere, and I have seen personally, being in the grocery store, I was one of maybe 3 people at that time that had a mask on. So as much as everyone's trying, there are people that are not taking it serious, and I think that we just, as leadership, need to show how serious this is, and we have to do something to start flattening the curve for Alaska.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Cease, did you have any comments to the motion on the floor?
No, I don't, but I do agree that I'm tired of seeing everybody in the grocery store or just even the gas station that doesn't have a face cover on.
Thank you. Councilmember Osenga, do you have any comments to the motion on the floor?
No, not really. I do agree with the face mask, the covering though, but no, not really.
Councilmember Baclan, did you have any additional comments to the motion on the floor?
I did. Well, I do not, I do agree that people should be wearing face masks in public. I do want to bring to the council's attention the recent activities that have been happening because of self-policing, and also the availability of masks. If masks were readily available to all the public, and could be easily accessed by everyone to have, I would more so agree with this amendment. However, some people may not have access to masks. Some people, for maybe certain reasons, cannot wear them because they cannot breathe well with them on. I want to also really have each and every council member really think about what we are telling people to do and possible repercussions of what has already been happening with self-policing through people, how you plan to enforce this, and what could possibly happen when we've seen many videos and many things online of people being harassed for not wearing masks, even though that on the federal level, those are strong recommendations to wear them. Like I said, I do agree with wearing these masks. However, the first is availability of the masks to every single person in this town to have one, as well as the repercussions of self-policing by those who do not wear masks, and then having other people, disagreements with people wearing masks in certain places. So I just want to bring that to people's attention, and I would ask that the mayor do another round or just check with other council members again before we vote on this after what I've just said. Thank you.
I will. I'm going to go through and make sure everyone has an opportunity to speak first. Councilmember Butts, did you have any comments regarding this motion?
I just had one question then. Would this then have to change of what would be a punishment if we had somebody that was not following it? Or does that fall under the state punishment? Not sure there.
So one of the recommendations that the attorney has is like Cordova just implemented today, and that is a fine schedule to do with this stuff. And I don't know if that's the direction you want to go or not, but you know, when you see the governor's fines and mandates, they say like $25,000. That's typically like someone that would be infected that purposely tried to get other people sick, and that's kind of the extreme. That's not like a municipal type of a thing, like a ticket that's usually like $35. That's the enforcement issues on all of these things is where we see a lot of the tension and a lot of the difficulty, and those that are really serious and trying to adhere to it, and then those handful that just kind of don't pay attention or for whatever reason don't participate, or it's challenging and frustrating. So that is a difficult answer to come up with, is how do you enforce that? And I think, you know, through the rules and having it at the different businesses, you know, clearly if we add this to the rules, places like Safeway and the restaurants and places that you would actually, you know, even the post office maybe, those businesses would have to adhere, and, you know, it would self-police because that, you know, the manager and people at the store would all wear them, which they are now. And they could say, hey, you're not coming in without this. And most, you know, we're not asking for people to go buy or make something special. You could cut a sock or a t-shirt and use some rubber bands. And I think the intent, I don't want to speak for Councilmember Kreitz, but I think the intent is to try to cover your face just to minimize. It's not about protecting you, it's about trying to minimize that exposure to others, because the most volatile people are those that don't even know they're sick generally.
Thank you. Vice Mayor McClure, did you have any comments?
Oh, I kind of agree. They're also very difficult to talk through. And if you're not watching this, the four of us here are wearing masks all evening. So the enforcement would be my only concern. I would think with a lot of these things, if people are just reprimanded, they would probably get the idea, you know. But and I do think that masks are becoming more and more available. People are making them. You read online all the time about that. I have to say, as a glasses wearing person, it's really difficult because I fog up and then I can't see. So you know, there are a lot of us that are going to be kind of in trouble trying to function outdoors or, you know, in the store with masks. But I agree that this is sort of it's not a federal mandate, but a federal, what did they say, suggestion, guideline. And I want to thank Councilmember Kreitz for the suggestion.
Before I go back through the list, I'm just going to give my opinion. This is Christy Terry. I like the amendment. I'm going to vote in support of it. I will ask the maker if instead of using the word mask, we could just use the face covering, cloth face covering. And again, you know, I mean, obviously if someone has a note in their pocket from their doctor that they have asthma or something that doesn't allow them to cover their face, I think there's some leeway there. And as it pertains to enforcement, I do read in here that the city reserves the right to enforce these laws and state health mandates to the maximum extent permitted by law. I'm thinking that if it's something that, you know, authorities are able to question people about, maybe there won't be so much public feeling the need that it's their responsibility. So I'm hoping that if we enforce this or have this listed, that, you know, then people won't feel like they need to police it because they know that we're doing a good job watching it. So I'm going to go back through the list again. Kreitz, did you have any further comments about your motion?
Yes, thank you. I do agree with your amendment to what I had proposed as far as saying cloth covering, because there are a ton of do-it-yourself examples out there. You can use a bandana, a t-shirt, those types of things. And also to address Councilmember Pecan's concerns as far as respiratory issues or, you know, having difficulty wearing a mask. Totally in agreement with that. Again, those are the people that shouldn't be outside anyway because they're at more risk of catching COVID. But yes, a provider or physician note would definitely be something that should be acceptable to those people wouldn't have to wear it.
Okay, Councilmember Cease, did you have any additional comments?
Yes, yes, I do. And, you know, the more that Tony talked about it, that is something, and you're not supposed to wear the same mask twice. So if you go out 5 times in 1 week, if you don't do all that, or even twice in 1 day, you have to change your mask. And I guess I didn't think about that because when I go out, I have a different one on, or I've washed it. And I have a few of them. But there are a lot of people who don't have it. And I did see online how you can make them out of paper towels. But I still think, and me with glasses, I agree that they steam up so fast, you always have to touch them to try to hold them close to your nose so you can't breathe out of it. So I'm afraid that I'm not going to say that we have to make it mandatory, but maybe really stretch it that we would like it that way.
Okay, Councilmember Osenga, did you have any additional comments?
I guess the only thing I can think of is we're trying to mandate this at the city level. We're not trying to say this is just a really heavily recommended idea, right? We're trying to mandate this.
Clerk, would you read back the motion, please?
In addition, the City of Seward mandates that all persons wear a cloth face covering if not inside their place of residence or place of lodging.
So that's the motion on the floor, Councilmember Osenga.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Can
Councilmember,
you please read that one more time? Because it cut off right when you were reading. I'm sorry.
In addition, the City of Seward mandates that all persons wear a cloth face covering if not inside their place of residence or place of lodging.
Councilmember Baclan, did you have further comments?
Yes, I did. I'm concerned because when we first talked about mask usage, I don't know, and maybe this has changed, and maybe this is a question for Councilmember Kreitz, because the first thing was masks were less helpful than wearing them in the first place because you're touching your face more so, it makes you touch your face more so than not. That was the original thought of, why we should, wearing a mask that didn't properly fit you could be worse for your health. wearing a mask makes you touch your face more. So if we're requiring people to wear masks that are not fitting their faces out in public, where they're at the grocery store, not washing their hands or access to washing hands quickly or, inaccessible, then are we in fact making it worse because they may be touching more things and then adjusting this mask on their face? I'm also concerned too because this creates an us versus them mentality between people, and like I said, with the self-policing and this, this thing, I feel that it's a little too strong to say that we mandate that people wear this. I think we should say the City of Seward strongly recommends, as with the federal mandates and the state mandates, to wear them rather than mandating them. But we still haven't voted on that second amendment. So maybe Councilmember Craig to tell us, what has changed now between the beginning we're saying where we had the report from the Community Health Center, or Providence, I'm sorry, Stephen Clegg and Christian about wearing masks and, them not being as effective as they were, or the cloth face coverings now. I'm just wondering what has changed between not wearing them because they weren't effective, or they're not safe because they're touching your face more. And I understand that masks were to prevent the spread from yourself to other people. They're not necessarily protecting you. That's why I think Councilmember Cease has said if you wear that mask once, you should be taking it off and putting it into your dryer or washer at a sanitized function because that mask is now contaminated. So I don't know if it seems like we're mandating something that may be good or bad for the community. I have been personally wearing a mask everywhere I go in public. So
Councilmember Kreitz, did you want to? Councilmember Kreitz, did you want to answer those questions?
Yeah, to address Councilmember LaPlante's concerns, I know that early on when this pandemic started, I think that the comment that he's referring to about Providence and the masks that they weren't effective for healthcare providers or for those in the medical field that are taking care of patients directly. Dr. Zink, if you listen to the state medical director, every day she's on the news at 5 o'clock, and there's become this stronger push, to wear these masks because what they're finding is that these particles are living in the air longer. They're transmittable. It's becoming springtime. It's warm outside. People are running. People are biking. They're now saying you can have a distance of greater than 6 feet for these droplets to be in the air. So it is for the protection of others and yourself, even though a mask, a cloth mask is not as effective as an N95 that a healthcare provider is going to use. At least it is providing you anywhere from 40 to 60% protection from inhaling those particles.
Thank you. Councilmember
I know that
Futz?
you have a concern about mandating
Go ahead.
this, and I think that council can look at this in two different ways. I think making a firm stance that we've only had 3 cases here. All 3 of our cases have resolved. We are not a Ketchikan. We're not an Anchorage. We're not a Fairbanks. We haven't become a hot hub of this disease. And I think that's because we are taking action. Safeway is doing an excellent job. They're putting the one-way lanes in. So we're being very proactive. And I think this is just another step in being proactive to show that, we agree with the state medical director and what the state of Alaska is telling us. This is also in guidance with the CDC's federal recommendations on masks. So, I think if we take this and show that our community is willing to do it, hopefully other communities will follow suit.
Thank you. Councilmember Butts, did you have any comments?
No.
Thank you. Vice Mayor McClure?
No, I don't.
I just have one comment, and then I will check back for final thoughts with council. The railroad has required masks both working outside because we do have crews that work in close contact, and we are learning that the particles can spread 20 feet. And riding in vehicles, we're being encouraged to take separate vehicles, but when you have to have 2 people in one vehicle, you're being asked to wear a mask. So again, I am in supportive of this. I know officially, I think we took out the word mask. I'm hoping that the maker of the motion and the second agreed with that. So I think, people are concerned, it could be a bandana, it could be a scarf in this weather, but, I think just saying that it's mandated is proving the point. And I will check one last time. Are there any further comments before we make a vote on this motion?
I would.
Yes, I have one more.
Yes?
I'd like to thank Councilmember Kreitz for her input on this, and I will be voting in support of this and taking her recommendations as a healthcare professional.
Thank you. And then also, thank you, Councilmember Baclan. City Manager, did you have a comment?
I would just add that if you place this in the rules, it is, just like Rule 11 says that private entities and facilities will be closed, such as bars. So we do have that authority to mandate this, and if you put it in the rules, that is going to be a mandate. So it's not just a strong suggestion. We can enforce, to what degree we do that, obviously is subjective, but it is, I think with peer pressure and the mentality that we're seeing is if you wish to move forward, then put it in the rules. That would be something that you would require a face covering. And so as visitors come, it would be more of a social thing and a mandatable. It's going to be difficult to enforce on every individual, but the intent would be to do that.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, I think we're ready for a vote.
May I ask one quick clarifying question?
Yes.
Does council wish to allow for a couple of days before this becomes effective? Right now, the resolution is written as effective immediately. The communication of this to the community, we might be served by allowing maybe a grace period of a couple of days just to be able to communicate.
Well, the same would be true for the other, statements and filings required.
Okay. I just want to mention for council's consideration.
Yeah.
Voting on the amendment. Sorry. Voting.
A question?
Go.
Mr. Osenga?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, did we change the motion then?
Just read it.
Can you read the motion into the record one more time, please?
In addition, the City of Seward mandates that all persons wear a cloth face covering, if not inside their place of residence or place of lodging.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Voting on that amendment,
I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead. Councilmember
I'd like to
Baclan?
make a motion can we amend the cloth mask covering for 24 hours after this is signed, just the cloth face covering?
Let's go ahead and vote on this, and then we'll have a second amendment if we want to implement a time delay.
voting on the amendment as stated, Kreitz,
Yes.
Cease,
No.
McClure,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
Baclan,
Yes.
Butts,
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
That amendment is approved.
Councilmember Baclan, did you have a further motion?
I'd like to make a motion to amend the previous motion at the end of that for cloth face covering to be enacted 24 hours after the vote tonight.
So you're saying, so you're using the date of April 14th at 9 p.m.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
Osenga, I'll second.
Is there further discussion, or are we ready to vote?
this is Cheryl, and how are we going to police it?
Well, right now we're discussing the time delay.
Okay, so is that another time that I can ask that question, how we're going to police it?
Well, I think following the discussion on the delay of the 24 hours, we can discuss implementation on all the enforcement for the entire resolution items.
Can I speak to my motion, please?
Yes.
I just feel that we will need, I agree with this, but before we start immediate policing of it, I think we should have a good time to get the public to know that this is going to be required of them. I mean, if we were going to enact this immediately, this would mean people tonight who may not have seen this meeting that are still shopping somewhere or doing something, that they would fall under this mandate. If we had 24 hours, we could really get it out there and get some good notices that this is going to be required of them from now on.
Thank you. Are there any further comments? This is just to the time delay. Does anyone have any further comments? Vice Mayor McClure?
I kind of do. In thinking about it, is 24 hours long enough? I mean, not everybody's going to be aware of it in 24 hours. I don't know how long it would take.
Well, the newspaper comes out on Thursday.
Well, if
I don't
it's
know
in
if
there.
that is the intention or not, to have an article.
This is Councilmember Crites. If I could make a suggestion, when the state mandates are released by Governor Dunleavy, they usually give 24 to 48 hours notice. And maybe that could be something that we put out on our social media pretty heavily in the next 24 to 48 hours as well.
I didn't think there'd be much discussion, but I'll go through the list. Butts, did you have a further comment?
No.
I might just say, I really don't see our police force going and grabbing people and throwing them in the Seward jail for not having a mask. I feel like Seward's done a great job of, through the clerk's office, getting the information out. This to me is less about penalizing people and more about stressing how important at this time it is to make sure that in the next 2 weeks during the projected surge, we are not spreading this disease with people that have no symptoms. So, I think 24-hour, in my opinion, is plenty of notice to start getting the information out there. We will not be handcuffing people, throwing them back into their place of residence. I think that obviously we can start to have the conversation and just move forward. So I'll go through the list. McClure, did you have any further comments?
No.
Councilmember Cease, did you have any further comments?
No.
Councilmember Osenga, did you have any further comments?
No.
Councilmember Baclan, do you have any further comments?
No.
Councilmember Butts, did you have any further comments?
No.
Councilmember Crites, do you have any further comments?
No.
Madam Clerk, would you repeat what we're voting on, and let's have a voice vote, please.
Voting on the amendment to have cloth face coverings go into effect in 24 hours on April 14th at 9 p.m. Osenga?
Yes.
Crites?
Yes.
McClure?
Yes.
Baclan?
Yes.
Cease?
Yes.
Butts?
Yes.
Mayor Terry?
Yes.
That amendment is approved.
Now, one good thing with having the amendments incorporated into this resolution tonight is that as businesses are turning in their plans, they're made well aware that masking is important. So I think that having that be adopted tonight is also helpful. Now, I'm going to go through and see if there's any comments on the resolution with the additional rules as a whole. Councilmember Cease, I'm going to start with you.
No comment.
Thank you. Councilmember Osenga?
No.
Councilmember Baclan?
No.
Thank you. Councilmember Butts?
No.
Councilmember Kreitz?
No.
Vice Mayor McClure?
No.
And then for myself, I do have a couple questions for the city manager. So again, you know, it's talking about access to this. So these rules are posted on our website, and the new rules will also be posted under that COVID-19 button.
Correct.
And then, Madam Clerk, on Wednesday, or probably with the information from tonight's meeting, you'll publish that to the public, and then it'll be included on the 3 weekly emails that go out to your list. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And then, thank you for clarifying that, so staff will work with these companies on the front end. Again, I see it less as a penalizing and more of a staff working, following up with companies, duration. So, can you talk about the duration of what we're putting in place, please?
So the rules that we enact are good for up to 90 days. If the emergency the declaration goes away, these rules go away upon deactivation of the emergency status. My intention is to canvass the community to the open businesses with some of our staff members with the flyers and the information to hand them and to provide them that information. It might be good to do a news release or a press release about the mask issue itself, or maybe the whole rule. I think it's hard when you have the full list of the mandates for every single person to understand all of that. I think, you know, specifically on the face masks, I think that would be helpful to just kind of say it's some type of face covering, which I'll be honest, wearing the official masks, it's really sweaty, it's really difficult to breathe. That's what I had. I think like what Brenda has is not uncomfortable too bad, and it's accommodating, and it does meet the requirement to do what's intended. I don't think it's the intention, like you said, isn't to go out and give tickets or to harass people. It's to get compliance, and I think by doing this and canvassing the rules, we'll get the other businesses and people on board too. That's the intention. I don't think we're looking at it as a punitive. But again, just like, you know, with the bars and the entities that are non-essential, you know, how do we get word that they're operating, and most of them are self-policing themselves. They know that they can't be open and they've seen the rules. So when we do have those, I mean, obviously our job with the police force is to educate first. And I think our staff and just the citizens and people that go around, I think that we don't want self-policing, we don't want shaming, but we want to, you know, I feel a little weird when I go to Safeway and I have my mask on and other people don't. It's kind of, I think, you know, we're all learning through this, and it's a social thing that I think, you know, we have to adapt and try to think about the others than just what we perceive as something that's important to us. So I think it's a good move, and I applaud the council for doing that, and we'll make our heartfelt effort to implement and get everybody compliant, and I think that's good.
And so the 90 days is from 90 days of April 13th with the new adoption of these rules?
Correct.
Okay, thank
So
you.
if we have a new revision, say another mandate comes out and we need to update that, the rules allow me to put those in place. So these have actually been in place, and then you're ratifying. It's hard to go out and do the canvassing and confrontation until I knew that the council was supportive of doing that. So a lot of people have been supplying and filling out the forms and cooperating, but now that it's mandated, we'll step that up and educate and try to get full compliance.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Kreitz.
Yes.
Can I ask one thing?
Yes, please, Councilmember Kreitz.
I know we passed the motion, and I did just want to, something I was sitting here thinking about, looking at the CDC guidance on this, I did want to make sure that it did not need to get added that children under 2 are not recommended to wear a mask just because of the choking hazard. So I'm not sure if that's something that we want to add in there that per the CDC guidance on children, just so there's no issue with that.
I think that makes a lot of sense. So did you want to make that motion? I think that could end up being the 3rd sentence in that Rule 12.
I would like to make a motion that we do follow the CDC guidance on pediatrics regarding masks, and children under 2 are not required to follow that mandate.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Bachman.
Thank you. And I'm imagining that there's not a lot of discussion on that motion, and so I'll just pause for a second and ask if anyone has any questions or discussion. Hearing none, I'll look to the clerk for a vote, please.
Can I, Councilmember Kreitz, can I read back in, I'm not sure that I took all that your language in your amendment exactly. So, children under 2 years old are not required to wear face coverings? Is that?
We could just say per CDC guidance, children under 2 are not required to follow the face mask covering mandate.
Thank you. Okay, voting on that amendment, Cease,
Yes.
McClure,
Yes.
Butts,
Yes.
Kreitz,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
Bachwan,
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
That amendment is approved.
And then going back to the main motion, I just have a further question for the city manager. So, today, there was a press release and some more information that sport and personal use fishing have not been identified as supporting critical infrastructure or critical personal need. And then it goes on to be very confusing and say that although travel between communities is prohibited under the health mandate, the public may still travel to fishing locations. So it's actually the very opposite. And it says, try to find resources you intend to pursue as close to home, find out local mandates in communities to plan travel before you leave and must abide by them, totally provision your trip from your community of origin, practice social distancing. So while those are state mandates that have to be followed, and we don't see, we do see the social distancing piece, just vague in this social distancing. Do you see anything that can be incorporated in here? I know the attorney said there's actually some very legal specific things that we're not allowed to do. And if it's not included in here, is there anything more that can be done at the harbor? I know that they already have some commercial messaging going out.
Yeah, so the harbor has a lot of enacted rules with vessels. When people come, if they're quarantined or sick, S-Float is a quarantine pier. Is that what it's called? So one of my concerns is the campgrounds are technically closed. Usually they open April 15th. We've posted notice, it's closed to visitors till May 1st. I think a big concern in the community is that, when the Kings start running here shortly, and the general perception of all road system municipalities that have fishing is all of a sudden the fishing's good. The governor's mandate says, you get your provisions, your food. That still, is going to require people to get fuel and interface with people at gas stations. And so my concern would be, obviously, if they come to Seward and the campground's closed, that creates a lot of dilemma. That doesn't mean that, there's borough campgrounds and things not in the city limits. But I think that until the 27th meeting, we still have time to kind of figure out where this may or may not go.
Okay.
The messaging I saw tonight on the news was kind of like things are inching open around the country. States are combining together. I think it's really hard for us to say, don't come to Seward, but then the campground's open. So I think we need to be consistent in that if we're trying to minimize, it's going to be almost impossible to keep everybody. There's a lot of essential contractors are coming here to work. Well, what if they're fishermen and they're here? And so that's going to be difficult. I think the campground is key because that's one of the campground and the housing here is really critical to visitors coming at that time of year. So I think we're in a position where we just have to think about those, and maybe some new rules will be enacted. Yeah, it doesn't really make sense because we're feasible. Like, what does that mean to I don't know how you navigate that with really clear, decisive regulation. It's kind of, what if you're muskox hunting, right? Is it feasible that you're gonna stay here in Seward? Well, no, you have to go to the North Slope, and that's not what we want. They clearly said that we don't want people traveling all across the state for sport. So it puts a real burden on us to try to navigate, hey, what are you doing here? You can't just stop everybody, that's not very practical. But then it's pretty clear to us when people pull in with their big boats and a whole bunch of people, and that they're probably coming from somewhere else. I think that's troublesome to try to continue this, but at the same token, I think the message is we're all kind of being trained to do our proper cleaning and washing and the separation. And I think as things move towards getting back to normal eventually, whether that be 2 weeks or 2 months or whatever, 5 months, we have to do it in that method still. Does that kind of make sense? And I think, you inch into it, and I think as long as you're following those guidelines, I think that's going to be something we all have to kind of learn. And
So I guess then the answer to my question would be, you're envisioning between now and that April 27th meeting that there could be some changes to this again?
I think so, because right now we just have, the 24th is when we have our, right now we extended this further out. So, that's going to go to the first meeting in May. The rules are good for 90 days, but I think it's going to warrant some additional learning and understanding based on where we are 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it's kind of indirect, but I think,
No.
I think we're going to have to navigate that as we get closer.
Okay.
I don't have a good, strong grasp of how we do that at this point.
Okay. Thank you. That does help me. We've gone through a couple checking with folks. I'll just ask one more time and pause to see if there's any further comments before the final vote on this resolution. Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call for a vote?
Voting on the approval of Resolution 20-028 as amended, Butts,
Yes.
Baclan,
Yes.
McClure,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
Kreitz,
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
That resolution is approved.
Thank you. Going through the items that were on the consent agenda or postponed, the next item on the agenda is 10, informational items and reports, ongoing city project and goal list. I'll just check with council and see if there's any comments on that item. Councilmember Butts?
None.
Councilmember Kreitz?
None.
Councilmember Cease?
None.
Councilmember Osenga?
None.
Councilmember Baclan?
None.
Vice Mayor McClure?
None.
And I have no comments either. Next on the agenda is citizen comments. So I might look at the clerk. How are we handling citizen comments tonight? I'm sorry.
I haven't had any requests to do a comment during the second period.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. So at our next meeting though, you'll republish what the options are to make comments during the meeting and different things.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda are council and administration comments in response to citizen comments. I'll start with Councilmember Baclan. Do you have any comments?
Yes, I do. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone's patience in the public and the council, and thank everyone in administration for helping make this virtual meeting possible. I want to thank all the people who left comments, citizen comments today. Patricia, Linda, Rosa, CJ, Kelly, Tamara, Brennan, Sherry, Jenny, Javanta, Carol, Nicole, and Laura. Our partnership works because everyone's citizen's voice is heard and acknowledged. And the partnership between administration, city council, and the city only works when people participate in their government. And I know that this is a hard time for everyone. We are experiencing new challenges every day. But I really want to stress that the city and the clerk and the mayor and council are working hard for you every day, taking emails and returning calls and returning emails and trying to get out there and listen to what everyone has to say. It's not a easy position for anyone in administration or in council. And we're doing the absolute best that each of us can. I'd like to congratulate the Sustainable Seward Group on the upcoming support from council to the Resiliency Commission. This is a great step in also joining the climate cohort, which I believe once we get PACAP meeting again, that we can get support from them and some more interested parties to move forward as a city and as a borough and as a state to more resilient efforts within our community for the future. I want to thank everyone again for their time tonight and for tuning in, and stay safe, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Butts?
Okay, first off, I wanted to thank the city manager and his entire staff there too for hanging in with all this stuff, and especially the clerk and the staff too for being able to put all of this stuff together and make all this happen. It's like quite weird, but hopefully we'll get back to someday back to kind of in-person meeting. I want to make sure that everybody out there too that if somebody does have questions and they're not quite sure what's going on, make sure that they get on a mailing list for the city and the borough for the daily situation reports. That's a lot of great information that's out there too. I'd like to thank all the 14 people that left their comments today too. That was great to hear from all of those people there too. Let's see. Oh, a couple things to do. If you know or anybody out there knows anybody who is in need, who's going hungry, who's anything else I just do, if you don't call the city, you get an answer. 491-1049. I've always said that. That's my phone number. Call me, and we'll get some help out there too, especially if somebody needs food. Everybody knows my wife is a really good cook, so yeah, we'll bring in some food. While you're out there on your walks, please remember that the wildlife is waking up, and if you can, take a bag with you. Pick up some garbage out there now. The snow's starting to go away. Let's see what other one that I had. All I can say is, everybody, we need to keep doing what we're doing. It's working. I know it's getting better weather, and I know we want to kind of relax a little bit, but we just need to keep doing what we're doing and until we get through all this. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Councilmember Butts. Councilmember Kreitz?
Yes, I just want to thank council and Mayor Cherry for passing the amendment or the motion to that resolution. I think Seward is going to be a great example for the state of Alaska in really taking this serious. And I mean, not only the health of our community, we have a lot of people here with a tremendous amount of health problems, but also the economic health of our community. The sooner that we can get this under control and get things back to some sense of normalcy, the better we're all going to be. So just thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Cease?
Well, I think most of them have said a lot of it already. I want to also thank the 14 people who did that. That's a great turnout for citizens' comments, I got to tell you. And anybody who needs help, please call one of us. My phone number is the Naples number, but it's 201-0110, and we'll make sure that you get what you need. And if you are in need of a mask, please call us. We'll make sure you get some of them. And thanks to the staff and to our city manager and also to our city clerk. They've done an outstanding job. And stay healthy. And I can understand being bored. I am, but I will manage to do all right. So just stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cease. Councilmember Osenga, did you have comments?
Sure. I just want to say thank you to the city clerk, manager, and all the administration that made this, helped set this meeting up. Thank you to all the citizens that made their comments. Thanks to fellow council members and mayor. This was, I think, a very productive meeting. Please fill out census forms. I think this is very important and can't be said enough. And also, protect yourself and others. Please keep your distance and, cover yourself up. Wear a face mask.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor McClure.
Decided to talk without the mask for a minute. Most everyone said everything. I was going to mention the census. There's no real reason not to fill that thing out. It doesn't take long, and it's not private information, and I don't understand why people aren't filling it out. If you don't have an online presence, I filled it out for my mom online. You don't have to be the one filling it out. So you check around with people, especially maybe some of the elderly ones. And in that vein, one of the things I do with my time is call people and just check in with them and see how they're doing. And this is hard for a lot of people, and I mentioned this a few weeks ago, but it's getting harder now. We're 3 more weeks into it, and loneliness sets in, and just it's good for people to hear a voice. So take the time to call, a couple people every day or something like that. I appreciate the electric department for getting power back on when it goes off. It's like one of my things. I hate power going off. It was Cuesta Woods today, in case you're in town and didn't realize, but they got it fixed. And I want to give a shout out, I won't name names, but some citizens have been picking up trash around town. And I'm really pleased with that. It's one of my things, but I haven't been doing it lately. Also, if you go to the south side of City Hall and you look right along the edge of the building, there's dandelions in bloom. And my mom's crocuses are still lovely, and the buds are coming out on the trees almost there. So take a look around and enjoy the beauty when you can. Thanks.
Thank you. And then I have some comments. I'm just going to ask Seward to continue to be vigilant. And I know a lot of these things are irritating and they're tough to do, but I want you to look around and think about other people that are having a harder time. So when something is irritating to you, realize that you're not having the same experience potentially as other people that are even more, not only inconvenienced, but fighting for their livelihood. We need to have clear, focused resolve for the next 2 weeks. They're calling for the peak in Alaska to be somewhere around April 21st. So we need to keep that in mind and do everything that we can. We cannot allow our local hospital to be overrun. The Providence and City has done a great job of surge planning, but we need to do everything possible to know that we don't have to implement those plans. Again, we need to not be weary of doing good. We need to follow not only the health mandates, but also the recommendations. And we need to take care of ourselves. Instead of worrying about other people that you see that might not be doing the right thing, you need to take a step back and look at yourself. And if you don't think a situation is safe, then get yourself out of that situation, stay away from that person, stay in your home. And then I do have a long list of community thank yous. The problem with making a list is you're going to miss someone. So if I miss you, just know that I might have missed you, but someone has noticed the good work that you're doing. I want to thank you to AvTech. They not only closed and sent their students home, but they've been working quite closely with everyone for emergency planning. I want to name Jag, Icicle, and Resurrection Bay Seafoods. I know initially there was a lot of chatter online that they were not doing what they were supposed to be doing, but they've implemented many, many items, not bringing in out-of-state workers, out-of-country workers, and they were implementing standards before a lot of other companies began implementing standards. I want to thank Safeway for putting in one-way aisles and also limiting the number in stores. I've noticed that Safeway has supplied their workers with masks, so I appreciate that. Frontier Arts downtown being a grocery store that remained open and implementing additional cleaning situations. Sew and Be Cozy, they have reopened, and they're working to make sure that the availability for masks is there. They're providing patterns. I know that they're working with the quilting group. There's a quilting group also making masks for people. There's a long list of people making masks. Seward Schools, Trevin Walker and Christy Jordan, working to make sure that our seniors who will not be having a graduation ceremony in physical situation, working to make sure that those seniors finish out this year in a positive manner. I want to thank all our healthcare providers, Providence, CHC, Glacier Family, and our own council member, Julie Kreitz. Those folks are putting themselves on the front lines, and not only themselves, but their families. And we just appreciate, and again, you're not only doing this for your health and your family's health, but also to protect all of those people. Everyone working at restaurants, I appreciate the small businesses that have implemented takeout and responded quickly to that to keep their workers working and to salvage, salvage their business. I also want to thank everyone that's closed down and stayed home. That's also important, and we appreciate that. Kudos to kiddos and parents who are trying to finish this school year at home now that there's not going to be school. And parents, you didn't sign up to be homeschool teachers, but we thank you for doing that. And we also thank all the teachers at the schools for implementing a new opportunity for learning. I want to thank city staff, all the departments working at home, all the essential services working. That's the city clerk, the city manager. I want to thank the leadership of both the city manager and the fire chief. The harbor master has done a great job being proactive. Public Works working with his staff to keep them safe. The electric department responding to emergencies this AM. I want to thank the Boys and Girls Club and their partnership with Parks and Rec, supplying not only lunches but food over the weekends, and also the schools for keeping that food going. We could be having a lot more problems with hunger in this town if it weren't for those organizations. I want to thank the Chamber and CAPED for looking forward on our economic issues that we'll be having and being proactive there. I want to thank Suds and Swirls for keeping the laundry open with increased measures, and again, all the pickup restaurants. And then Katie Cornwall, working with Seward Prevention Coalition, she's doing a great job of collecting community needs and also volunteers to help them. So if there's anyone that needs a face covering, contact Seward Prevention Coalition. And again, I might say that the city clerk has a mailing list that goes out 3 times a week with all this information, clerk@cityofseward.net. And then finally, I just want to thank Chris Urschinger, because I'm going to say for a lot of years, the finance department made sure that we had adequate savings in the event of an emergency. And without forward planning from people that have gone before us, we would not be in the situation we are today. So, sorry that was long-winded, and now I'll give it over to the city manager if you have any further comments.
Sorry, just sweating. The only thing I need to ask you, I've been trying to touch base with the city attorney, and that is the online sales tax ordinance. We are one of the only entities, because of the timing with this happening and the schedule, that hasn't adopted our schedule, and they're getting ready to implement. So we likely should do an emergency ordinance, which I know runs the risk of, if you don't have enough votes there, but it's so they collect the online sales tax regardless, just we would not be getting our portion if we don't approve it. So we probably should do a special meeting either Wednesday or Friday. And it would have to be an emergency ordinance because it is a public hearing item. We really need to get that implemented, otherwise we're gonna run the risk of having that not. Neil's called me, the states, we were on the front end of all this. Yeah. And now, because of the timing, the delay, we're kind of, a lot of them passed as a resolution, so we're doing as an ordinance. I don't know that, I think we should stick with being an ordinance because that's historically how we've done it in our code.
So let's go through the list. If, I know I had a conflict on Thursday, but I could meet at 6 o'clock. So I might just go through everyone and check availability. And I'll start with Vice Mayor McClure. Do you have availability this week?
Oh, yeah, I'm available. I do have a question, though. What was it that we already did? Because we did something. I know people will want to hear that.
Yeah, Brenda could, we introduced the ordinance, but we
Oh,
did not schedule the
because of
public hearing
everything.
because of all of this.
Okay, sorry. Yes,
So,
I'm available.
Available either Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday?
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Cease, would you be available Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday? And are there any time preferences?
No, I'm fine as long as it's those 3 days. One thing, can I just add one thing here? I should have said something about the census. You know, I heard it on the street and wherever, they say that people can't get in because they didn't get a notice. The notices weren't sent to us. They aren't sent to box numbers.
Yeah, so,
Anybody out there that hasn't done it because they're waiting for an invite to do it, they have to go on and do it themselves.
right, and I don't think, yeah,
Sorry.
and I'll just say from my experience, I went on and I didn't have a number or anything, and I just entered my name. So folks don't have to have anything in their hand, they can just get on and fill out the questionnaire.
That's correct, yeah.
Thank you. Councilmember Osenga, do you have any availability Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday?
Yeah, I'm good those days.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Butts?
I seem to have a kind of open schedule lately.
Thank you. Councilmember Baclawn?
I have something scheduled on Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. So if we met early on Wednesday at 5, that'll probably be okay, but I'm open Thursday and Friday.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Kreitz, do you have any timing or day conflicts?
Wednesday, 5 is good for me, or Thursday, after 5. Friday, I would not be available.
Okay. So based on that, it looks like Wednesday at 5 or Thursday at 6. Did I hear someone wasn't, Friday wouldn't be available. So Wednesday
Okay.
at 5 or Thursday at 6 or,
Do you have a preference?
any
Yeah,
preferences? Oh, maybe Thursday at 6 so there's plenty of notice time,
Okay.
is that?
Thursday at 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we'll have to get the titles and things. to
Yeah.
Brenda.
Or if we have to push it to next week, I don't know what you're looking at, but, did you have any further comments?
No, I just want to say thank you to the council, and this is challenging, and Brenda and her staff, and I really appreciate it. It's a team game and have a great team, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I will adjourn at 9:33. Thank you, everyone watching and listening.
Thank you.